Welcome in, everybody, to another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. Tyler Pilgrim here, flying solo with y'all. It's just a busy time. Everybody has stuff going on. Henry getting ready to cover the final match of the conference semifinals in Major League Soccer. San Diego, Minnesota, getting ready to kick off in a little over an hour. So I will definitely not be here for an hour, but we're going to get caught up on everything that has happened in these playoffs so far over the past couple of evenings. We had a watch along for the first match going back to LA and Vancouver. That was the game of the weekend by far. San Diego and Minnesota, though Minnesota was part of the crazy one that happened against Seattle a few weeks ago, they are going to have a lot of work to do if they ever want to surpass what we saw Saturday night. But with that one, I mean, look, a comfortable win is exactly what you want. If you're any of these teams, we'll talk about Miami in a little bit. I mean, you want to get out with an easy win, right? Move on to the next match. But the one on Saturday was by far the game of the weekend. So we're definitely going to start with that here in a minute. But again, this is me flying solo this time around. So y'all drop your comments, your questions in the chat. I'm going to try to hit on everything I can. And like I said, get you guys out of here in plenty of time to go tune in to the final conference semifinal match of 2025. So with that being said, scarvesandspikes.com, that's where you get all of your Atlanta United news. Definitely be having World Cup stuff coming up soon. And of course, the Atlanta NWSL 2028 team that will be kicking off in a couple of years. As that news kind of slowly starts to trickle in, that'll be your place for that as well, scarvesandspikes.com. And if you're not already, patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. You can join our Patreon, become a patron. And any of the tiers get you access to our Discord and our watch-alongs. And by watch-alongs, I mean our actual Atlanta United watch-alongs that we do in the Discord. But the other tiers, you have different benefits, different content, extra stuff that comes your way. So yeah, go check that out. And I'm about to have some new stuff popping up on the shop as well. So scarvesandspikes.com, go to the menu, click on the store, and there's plenty of stuff there for now, and we will be adding stuff here very soon. So E3 Inga said, I think Colonel, if I'm not mistaken, FC Cincinnati, Inter Miami was up to par with the Saturday match. 2 best matches so far. Yeah, I think for 2 totally different reasons, right? Like the Miami-Cincinnati match, you had one team that came to play and one that didn't. But Miami played really, really well. I have given Javier Mascherano a lot of crap over this entire season because I don't feel that what he's done with the team, getting them where they're at now, is because of Javier Mascherano. I feel like it's just because of the players that he has at his disposal, namely Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and again, the crew, right? I don't think that it's just this phenomenal coaching that he's doing. But, and we're going to jump around a little bit with this match in particular, I will say the decision, whether it was mutual by Suarez or whoever, the decision to sit Luis Suarez was absolutely the best decision that they could have made for this match. It allowed Miami to get more involved, getting him behind, because as great of a player as Suarez is, he doesn't have the speed. The dude's knees are holding on by threads at this point. So, I mean, it just makes sense to give him a little bit of time. Not that he didn't have time for rest because of the international break that preceded all these matches, but it just didn't seem like the right matchup. I mean, Luis Suarez and Miles Robinson, that's not a matchup that I think you want if you're Miami. But you get somebody with a little bit more speed that can compete, that can make it difficult for Cincinnati's back line, and you could come out on top. And that's exactly what happened. Of course, it helped that Lionel Messi was playing like Lionel Messi, and you had some surprises in there as well. I mean, Matteo Civetti was on one last night. It just all went in Miami's favor. So we're going to dive into it for sure. Get a little more detail out of it. But we're going to start with the first one of the weekend, which was the Vancouver Whitecaps and LAFC. Let me take a sip of my Coke before we get started on this one. All right. A few things about this match. Vancouver, we all know they have Thomas Mueller, came in the summer. LAFC, Son Heung-min, came in the summer. This was a matchup where your two superstars, if they could play well, you had a pretty good chance of winning the game overall. You're playing at BC Place. Vancouver, the place was hyped. It was ready to go. It was so much fun to watch as a neutral. And the whole city seemed like they were ready for this matchup entirely. So the one thing about Vancouver, though, lots of guys returning from injury. And I think it was mentioned on the broadcast that night, but you had a back line for Vancouver that played for the very first time together that day. Between injuries, folks coming back in, movement from, midfield back to center back, like just a few little tweaks. And you had this, Jesper Sorensen had this risk of, maybe seeing something in LA that he could exploit. But to do so, he had to move some pieces around and put them in a place where maybe the chemistry wasn't going to be there because they haven't played together. It turned out well. barely. So we'll start at the end. The game obviously goes to Vancouver. We know this. I'm speaking a couple of days in the future now. But this was a match that in the first half, it was all Vancouver. They came out and, we talked about the superstars and which one was going to have the better day. Well, the better first half was by far Thomas Mueller's. He came out, he controlled the game, he dictated the tempo, he did everything that you expect Thomas Mueller to do. He did everything you hope a solid central midfielder will do for your team, any team. But Mueller is one of the best in the world, and he showed it that night, especially in the first half. So it's kind of back and forth, right? A little bit. I mean, LA, they had a couple of counterattacks, but it was nothing super dangerous. By the end of the first half, they had, depending on where you looked, either 0 expected goal or like 0.02 expected goal. Vancouver, we kept saying they're playing beautiful soccer. They're playing really, really well, and they've had by far the better opportunities, but they just can't get it over the line until they did. Emmanuel Sabai in the 40th minute with a beautiful, beautiful ball from goalkeeper Takaoka, sends it over the top. And I think it was one of those that kind of caught LA by surprise because all half, Vancouver had been playing very intentional, but build up football. Now, this was not like playing out of the back, kind of dinking it around for a couple of minutes and then hoping you get an opportunity. Their passes were very deliberate. They were playing through LA, but they were getting in really good positions. They were taking shots. They had opportunities. And then all of a sudden in the 40th minute, Takaoka has the ball and he skies it completely over every other player on the pitch. And Sabai gets on the end of it and, I mean, barely, and is able to just get a foot to it to dink it over the goalkeeper and makes it 1-0. Beautiful goal. And Brett Sand have to give credit to LA for fighting back 9 times out of 10. LAFC wins that game 100%. But then the first half, I mean, again, it wasn't over. You think, all right, cool. Vancouver's going into the half up a goal. That's good for them. They're at home. Awesome. And within 5 minutes, they strike again. It's now one key factor, 44th minute. So after the first goal, Thomas Mueller gets his yellow card. But Matias Laborda gets the second in the first minute of first half stoppage time. So Vancouver goes into the locker room up 2-0. And we're thinking, all right, if LAFC, depending on what they do at the half, if they don't come out with their hair on fire, it's a done deal. But LA in their many playoff matches and or one and done games over the past couple of seasons, we've seen them. They've gotten emotional, but they've never let the emotions get the better of them. They've always played through it. They were a very, very good playoff team overall. They come out of the half. If you're an LA fan, exactly like what you wanted. They're getting involved. They look dangerous. They're striking quickly. And the one guy, of course, Son Heung-min gets his in the 60th minute. Makes it 2-1. 30 minutes to go. You got a game now. And look, it was a weird one, right? Like this was a ball that was sent in and it kind of just pinballed all around and your guy got on the end of it. Great. That's what you pay the $26 million for, right? Well, that's part of what you pay the $26 million for. A few subs are made, and then I think one of the crucial parts of the game happens in the 64th minute when MLS Defender of the Year Tristan Blackman gets his first yellow card. And I say first, obviously, that implies there is a second. Tristan Blackman, coming back from injury, before this game, he had not played, even though he was Defender of the Year, had not played before this game in, I believe it was 62 days or 64 days. So over 2 months, this guy had not played. And he did well in the first half. The second half, I think the lack of play time, the lack of conditioning, and everything else kind of came and reared its ugly head, and he struggled. He starts getting real sloppy with his challenges, his tackles. He's getting eaten alive, and he gets a deserved yellow. And that kind of changes things because you start thinking at that point, does Jesper Sorensen really start thinking about making a sub here? I mean, he's Defender of the Year, but like there are so many factors working against him. Well, LA continued to kind of knock on the door. Well, probably 10 to 15 minutes later, Blackman gets kind of taken down. He gets kind of hurt. He stays down for a minute. And you think, all right, well, surely now, again, injuries, coming back from a previous injury. And now he's on a yellow. He's getting sloppy. All this is kind of playing against him. And I mean, to the point where Blackman actually came off the pitch for the required amount of time because the trainers had to come and deal with him. No, he goes back on. Moments later, another sloppy challenge, and in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, and he gets his second yellow. So now they're playing down a man. From there, it was such a privilege to watch this game live. It was like instant classic. From there, a free kick is set up. Again, we're in stoppage time. All Vancouver had to do was hold out for another couple minutes, and this would have been one and done, and we're out of here. But none other than Son Heung-min, he lines up for this free kick, and we were doing a watch along for it, and we're sitting there thinking like out loud, he's going upper left corner. You could see where the goalkeeper set. You could see where the wall is set. And look, you couldn't ask for a better free kick at all. Son hits it. And to be fair, Vancouver's wall, they jumped as high as they could jump. If you go back and watch the replay, they were trying to stretch their necks out and everything. He hits it perfect. And that 1 or 2 inches that had been left because of the wall off to the goalkeeper's right side. Hugo Lloris, I'm sorry, not Hugo Lloris. Mine is going blank. Anyway, goalkeeper for Vancouver. I'm tripping. Takoka. It gets hit. He had given that extra little bit of space. And I mean, it's upper 90. Nothing you can do about it. Nothing any goalkeeper in the world's going to do about it. And makes it 2-2. We're going to extra time. So extra time was, again, Vancouver's down a man. That was an absolute cluster. Massive credit to Vancouver. I'm not going to go that one play by play, but look, it was Vancouver holding on for dear life. a few minutes into stoppage time, or I'm sorry, extra time, Vancouver has another injury that they don't have a sub for. And they end up essentially playing down another man for most of this set of extra time. So it ends up being that they hold on by the skin of their teeth. The whole thing goes to penalties, and the first one to step up to take the penalty is none other than Son. And Son hits the woodwork, and instead of taking the deflection in, because it did hit the inside of the post, it bounced just out and back across the face of goal. So they're already down one. From there, it goes to Sebastian Berhalter, who had a phenomenal game, again, coming off of his time with the men's national team. He hits his. Denny Bouanga hits his for LA. Jaden Nelson hits his for Vancouver. And then Marco Delgado steps up. Blocked. So now LA's down essentially 2 at this point. Ryan Gauld hits his. Andrew Moran hits his for LA. And then Eddie Ocampo, who could have won it with this one, misses his. But again, LA's down by 2. Frankie Amaya steps up for LA, hits his. All Matias Laborda has to do is hit his, and he does. They win it 4-3 in penalties, and it was an instant classic. So I've spent, I don't know, a little over 15 minutes maybe talking about this game. I could talk about this game for another 15 or 20. Like, it was such a good game. And Brett, again, I'll go back to that comment. You have to give credit to LA for fighting back. 9 times out of 10, LAFC wins that game 100% because they were pushing, they were fighting, and you can't really attribute a whole lot to them not winning this game other than Vancouver just straight up wanted it more. Vancouver was, despite being down a man because of the red card and then essentially another man because of an injury, they never gave up, man. And it's such a cliche in sports, but they really, really, I don't believe they ever once thought that they could lose this game. And I think that's the mentality that you saw on the pitch. So just a phenomenal game. And in one respect, I hate the result because now you don't get to see a guy like Son into the playoffs a little bit more, but the team deserved to win it. I really feel that way. I feel like Vancouver deserved to win it. But it very easily could have gone the other way. Very easily could have gone the other way. So fun one overall. If you have not watched it, if you're just getting the highlights or you're hearing me run my mouth about it, it is worth 100%. It is worth a watch. It was fun. Vancouver in the first half, the first 45 minutes might have been, and I said this on the watch along, might have been some of the prettiest, most complete soccer I've seen a Major League Soccer team play in a long time. It was very, very well done, well executed. But then again, credit to LA for finding a way to get back into it. And look, sometimes your superstars have to do superstar things. That's what happened until it didn't in the penalty shootout. Look, Son's been there before. He's going to be a goldfish about it, but it is tough. Like that is a tough way to go out, especially after the high that he had from hitting that free kick. That free kick was nothing but pure class. So just a fun one. Just a fun one, man. It was such a good game. Some stats from it. We have, let's see. It was 44% possession for Vancouver, which seemed opposite in the first half. And it was opposite in the first half. But overall, through the entire extra time, LA ended up with more of the ball. LA actually had, by the end of it, a little over an expected goals of 3. They had 25 shots to 9. I mean, the game got flipped on its head, obviously, after the first LA goal and then the red card. It was totally different at that point. But just a wild one. I'm looking at, let's see some other stats here. Thanks to our good buddies over at FOTMob. But Vancouver missed 2 big chances. LA missed 4. A pretty foul-heavy game, 18 and 17 apiece. 15 corners for LA. All the stats pretty much, all the attacking stats pretty much went in LA's favor. Every defensive stat, every single one of them went in Vancouver's favor. 24 tackles to 16, 12 interceptions to 8, 6 blocks to 1, 50 clearances to LA's 24. 55% of their aerial duels won to 45% of LA's. It's just a fun game. Just a really, really fun game. Especially when you see a first half go one way and then the game just completely changes. So that was Vancouver, LA. That was Saturday night. Instant classic. And then we move on to probably the one I think a lot of people were waiting on, which was FC Cincinnati versus Miami. I, of course, if you've watched, had Cincinnati winning it all. My bracket has been completely destroyed as of this weekend entirely. Thanks to Lionel Messi, as usual. But, I mean, this was a game where it really did feel, I said it a minute ago, it really felt like the team that won this one came to play, and the one that didn't just totally didn't. I mean, they didn't show up. Since they had their opportunities. And the way, like, you look at the scoreline, this one ended 4-0 in favor of Miami. The first half was pretty much just kind of, I mean, both teams having opportunities, both teams having chances, but things couldn't really, go either way. The 19th minute is when Lionel Messi scores the first one. The assist was by Matteo Silvetti. I mean, but that was the one thing, like the one thing of note that actually happened in the first half. So if you're Cincy, you go into the half and you're like, all right, cool, we're down a goal. That's not the worst place to be. Like we have another 45 to come out and actually make something happen. Well, they come out and Miami is apparently had the better halftime talk and they get absolutely dog walked. 57th minute, Matteo Silvetti, he's already got an assist. Now the roles are reversed. He gets a goal assisted by Lionel Messi. 5 minutes later, Tadeo Allende, third goal assisted by Lionel Messi. In an effort and an attempt to make something happen, Pat Noonan made some subs. He pulled out Nick Hagland and Ender Shanike, brought in Yu Kubo and Ayub Jabari. Didn't make much of a difference. And then 74th minute, Tadeo Allende again with another assist by Lionel Messi. So, and that was all she wrote. I mean, it was Suarez made an appearance for a minute, for about the final 15, it looks like. But we use FOTMob a lot when we do our Atlanta United scores and we do our MLS Mondays and talk about players and everything. If you've never been on FOTMob, don't ask me how the rankings exactly go. It's based on stats, not the eye test. But if you're above a 7, the background of your number is in green. If you're, I think, anything above a 5, so 5 to 7, it's in an orange. And anything below that, below a 5, I believe, is red. Anything above a 9 is in blue. All right. Every player for Cincinnati was in the orange. The highest rated on FOTMob player was Lucas Engel with a 6.6. And Mem 5860 FOTMob can be bad for ratings, but that's part of our running gag with it. We have a good time with it because sometimes our ratings are so far off from them, but it's just fun because at least I will say they are consistent for the most part, even if they're consistently weird. But nobody made it past a 6.6 for Cincinnati. Meanwhile, to give you an idea, the lowest rated player for Miami was Rodrigo DePaul, which is a soapbox I could get on, but I'm not going to right now. He had a 7.1. The next lowest was Falcon with a 7.2. Allende with an 8.9. Silvetti, 8.4. Busquets, 8.2. Their back line was the lowest rated. And then Rocco Reyes Novo with a 7.9 in goal. Lionel Messi, 9.7. So I always talk about the eye test. That's my thing. The eye test and the stats, sometimes they add up and sometimes they don't. in this one, they pretty much add up because if you watch the game, Cincinnati just didn't have that factor. They didn't have any X factor. They didn't really look like they were super comfortable in their own stadium for any part of the game. And when you play Messi, I think I get so frustrated. And I think Kalen Kyle brought this up on the broadcast last night, but it gets brought up quite a bit. When you play Messi, you have got to play Messi and surround him. And you cannot play him and be starstruck. I will always go back to the first time Atlanta United played Lionel Messi in, was it 2023 in Leagues Cup? And I was so pissed off after that game because they got beat 4-0, maybe 5-0. I think it was 4-0. And all you saw at the end of this game was players, posting their pictures with Lionel Messi. And it's like, dude, in one respect, I get it. Like this guy is a living legend, right? Like this is a guy that you probably in any other world, you would hope that you could go back in time to have like dinner with this guy because he's a legend that, was a legend a long time ago. No, this guy's a living legend. So I do get it. You get a chance to play against him, considering he's been playing in Europe almost his entire career. Like, cool. But if you get beat like that, it's so frustrating to your fan. Your fans don't give a crap who it is. Your fans don't care that it's Lionel Messi because they care about the team. So don't go posting pictures and doing all this stuff, being like, oh, whatever, I played against Lionel Messi. Cool. That's great, man. Keep that in the drafts folder. Keep it to yourself. Show your family. Don't put it out there. It's so frustrating. They were starstruck, and it happened in Cincinnati last night. I mean, I'm not even going to get on the whole thing about the jersey exchange. I could care less about that. But it felt like the entire team just kind of stepped to the side whenever Lionel Messi came charging through. And look, Lionel Messi had a very good game, even by Lionel Messi standards. But I think a lot of that was because Cincinnati just didn't really do a whole lot. They didn't feel like they had a game plan to take care of Messi. And not many teams have ever had game plans to take care of Lionel Messi, but you have seen teams in MLS this year, find ways to help keep Lionel Messi out of the game as much as possible. He is going to get his, period. You have to go into it knowing this. But if you don't put 2 guys minimum on him, anytime he is in the attacking half, you're going to have a bad day. And you go back and look at Cincy, and he was just, honestly, it wasn't like he was making the best runs he's ever made. He was just being allowed space. And space with Lionel Messi, if you're not on his team, that is a very, very bad combination. So it felt like the game plan was all wrong for Cincy. And I got to give credit again to Javier Mascherano. He kept out Suarez. He had a plan going into this. And looking at the chat, I mean, M. Bowermaster saying since he has the highest paid center back in the league, ineffective against them 100%. And then, yes, Derek Evander was invisible. Evander has been invisible the entire playoffs, and it's been very disappointing. Very disappointing. You look at I don't remember which goal it was last night, but he turns the ball over kind of around midfield. And Miami's off to the races. Evander kind of drops his head and then just kind of jogs, and he gives up on the run. He gives up on the defense. And look, I mean, I get it. Like if you've been playing for however many minutes it was at that point. I mean, it was at least the 57th minute because it wasn't the first goal, I don't think. Or maybe it was. I don't remember. They're all kind of coming together at this point. But I mean, you've been playing. I think he might have thought he was fouled, or he was just very frustrated the ball was taken from him. But his response after that was very poor. And as a leader on the pitch, and as a guy that sometimes you have to put the team on your back, He didn't do that last night, and he hasn't done it in the playoffs, and it was just incredibly disappointing. Incredibly disappointing. Um, but that right there, that was just a microcosm. That was a bubble of how Cincy looked last night. I mean, they just got outplayed. They didn't really have a great game plan going into it, and it was just poor overall. Harry Namkung saying Seattle had a plan, yeah. Um, and then Bowermaster, how are you starstruck by a dude who's been in the league for 3 seasons and you've played against a dozen times? You know, I thought about this too. I kind of went back and forth on this. I think there is something to be said about playing Lionel Messi and those guys. I say Messi, but I mean it's a handful of them, right? Like it's Busquets included, Suarez is there. These are guys who they've played under the biggest lights that the world has to offer in the beautiful game. They've been through the pressure. They also, I think, feel like they have something to prove coming off of the 2024 playoffs. And even if that's not the case, they've been through the pressure. They've been through the ringer. They know how to handle this. Cincy, on the other hand, um, they've been good, but they have not been the best in the big games for the most part. Now, you combine all that, and I think there is definitely something to be said for a team going into a game where they feel the pressure. They're at home, right? They were seated higher, going up against these players who kind of look at this as like just another game because they've played the Champions League matches, they've played the World Cup matches, they've been in front of the biggest crowd you could possibly imagine. And I think that right there um, is just a mental aspect that's really tough to get around if you don't have somebody really psychologically getting it into you that this is just another game. So I don't know, but it just whether they were starstruck or not, maybe that's not the best word for it. It felt like they were starstruck. They played poorly. They gave him way too much space. Um, Hacker saying funny part was when Miami scored against them, the whole league, the whole team's chanting MVP. And said, if you give Messi that much space, he'll make you suffer. Doesn't matter what league you're from. 100%. I mean, you can't give. That's what I said a minute ago. If you give him space, he will make your day terrible. So, again, just not planned out very well from Cincy's perspective. Mascherano, I got to give him credit for holding Suarez off and letting some of the young legs come in and do what they needed to do. And overall, I mean, it was a good game for Miami and a bad one for Cincy. That's what it comes down to. And at this point, I really, I think it's going to be tough to stop Miami. We'll get to the next one in a second, but I mean, if any team has any hopes of trying to shut them down, I think the better options have already now been played off the pitch. So we'll see. Um, we'll see how it goes. They've got the next game coming up very soon. But let's see. Harry saying Real Madrid had it. You got to try to deny him the ball. You got to deny him time and space. If that fails, you need to knock him down far from the 18-yard box. I mean, yeah, that's the only way you can play Messi. And then the one other factor that you can just hope you have on any given day is that you have a goalkeeper who stands on his head. We've seen it over the course of the years, and I will always go back to 2024 playoffs with Brad Guzan. But there's been opportunities and chances and things before where, look, it was just really good goalkeeping that has denied Messi a couple times. But you cannot give him space and time on the ball. And if you go back in Major League Soccer this year and last year and look at the games where Messi hasn't been as involved, it's when he's surrounded and it's when the passing lanes to him are cut off, not the passing lanes from him, because he's going to find a way to pass through, around, or over you because that's what he does. But if you can keep him like Harry said, if you can keep him from getting the ball in the first place, at least in halfway decent positions, you have a chance. You have a chance. So, And yeah, Derek, the trouble is Messi's impossibly good at finding space no matter how hard teams try to mark him. 100%. I mean, it's what he does. He's slippery. So, I mean, how many locker rooms have tried to have this kind of conversation in professional soccer over the past 15, 20 years? I mean, there is no good plan. There's no good plan. There is just a plan that might work. And you just have to hope that your team happens to be better all around than the team that he's playing for. And again, Miami has weaknesses, but when you have Lionel Messi playing like he did last night, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, if Cincy could have came out and struck first because they did have a couple of chances, then I think the game opens up a little bit because if there is one weakness that this Miami team has, and we know this, it's been their defense. And when you can go up a goal, it's not safe, but it does open Miami up a little bit more to where maybe you can go get a second and kind of make them a little frustrated. And then Mascherano has to start making moves that maybe he doesn't want to make. And then you got a chance. But when you let Lionel Messi not only score the first one, it happens, but then just basically have free reign of the entire attacking half of the field, it's a done deal. Done deal. Let's see. All right, let me hit on the chat. Hacker, what do I think of the Cincy player asking for Messi's shirt after losing 4-0? I think it sucks. I think it's ridiculous. I kind of touched on it. Just about this overall conversation kind of stemmed from it, but like they seem like they're playing starstruck. And I think it's in bad taste to go and then ask for a player's jersey after you got whooped inside your own stadium. It's one thing, like, right, if you're down in Miami, it's one, or Fort Lauderdale rather, you go and you get it, whatever. Like, it's not the biggest deal to me, but in the playoffs, in a one and done game, in the worst playoff loss that you've had, by the way, worst home loss, I think that the team has ever had, ever, to then go and say, hey, can I have your jersey? And all, because your fans that are sitting in the stands still watching, that are still there, are like, dude, what are we freaking doing? That is garbage. I don't I don't care whose jersey you get. It doesn't do anything for the fan base. It just pisses them off, honestly. So yeah, I think it was in bad taste. I saw some people trying to go after Dax McCarty for doing it a couple of years ago after, I think, Leagues Cup. That was a totally different situation. Like, that was a hard fought game that they barely lost. Barely lost. This wasn't like they got played off the pitch. And then, yeah, veteran Major League Soccer player goes to world legend and says, hey, can we swap now? Like, that's different, right? Because you actually had some fight in you. You showed something for the fans. FC Cincinnati didn't show much of anything for the fans last night. And that's unfortunate. And then to go and ask Messi for his jersey, I just think it's bad taste. Messi could have easily had 5 assists if DePaul and Suarez converted. Yeah. Suarez looks too old, Hacker says, even though he came from a sub when he was moving, he looks too slow. Yeah, I think it's about time for Suarez. But look, Suarez is going to play until his knees literally give out, I think. I mean, the dude's, he's taking painkillers like crazy. I don't think he's got much longer, but he's still, look, I think he had a 10 goals, 10 assists regular season, if I'm not mistaken. That's still super respectable. And he does it just because of his IQ and his teeth. All right. Freaking Messi. We could have a whole conversation about Messi. So that was last night. And then the other one from last night, Philadelphia Union versus New York City. Now, this one was, I think, the real upset, right? Philadelphia Union, they won the Supporter Shield against, I think, everybody's predictions. And I'm sorry, I got to laugh. Derek said Suarez is hungry. Yeah, for this freaking teeth will definitely prove. But he is hungry. He is a legitimate hungry striker. It just makes it really funny when you consider his teeth. But I talk about Suarez's teeth way too much. I'll try to back off. I'm sorry. Take a chomp out of the next game. Yeah, New York City. I mean, look, they go down to Subaru Park. They go down to Chester, Pennsylvania, and I don't know. I think every one of us had predicted New York to lose this game because they had kind of everything stacked against them. They lost one of their star players during the international break to a long-term injury. Obviously, Philly playing at home. They've been really, really good. They won the Supporter Shield. Nobody thought they were going to do it. I will be the first to say, going back to the beginning of this season, the receipts are there. I said Philly was going to be down near the supporter. I'm sorry, the wooden spoon, because I just wasn't impressed with anything that they did in the offseason. And then they came out and they played pretty good soccer, but they played it with guys that all were bought in. And that right there will beat a couple of superstars most of the time. You have 11 guys on the pitch that just they want it and they know what each other's tendencies are and they have that chemistry. That's the secret to successful soccer. And Philly had it for most of this season. I mean, they won the Supporter Shield, but as we all know, the one who wins the Supporter Shield most likely does not win MLS Cup. And that came to fruition last night. New York City, they came over, and Maxi Morales, who again, you need your star to do things. Maxi Morales did it. 27th minute. The goal, if you haven't watched it, the goal is freaking beautiful. It's just a great team goal. The finding space, the pass through just completely took the entire back line by surprise. And then Maxi's there to finish it. It was just such an exquisite goal to watch. It was just enjoyable. Like, look at it and you're like, that was fun. That was fun. That's the beautiful game. And New York, I got to give credit to them. Harry saying, I don't think Philly losing was that big of an upset. New York City had injuries, but Philly were lucky to beat Chicago game 1 on PKs. In the second game, Chicago's backup goalkeeper served 2 goals on a silver plate. I think, the other thing with that too is I think obviously it's still going to be considered an upset because, I mean, this is, what were they, the 7th seed? I can't remember. Or 6th seed, whatever they were. But Philly's top, right? They're the 1st seed. And so, I mean, by the definition, I guess, of an upset, that you have that. But also, to your point, Philly, if you go back and look at the way that they played this season, and we brought this stat up on the show as well, they did not play the best against teams that were of playoff caliber, like in the playoff standings. They tended to struggle against really good teams. And so, as far as the Supporter Shield was concerned, they won the games that they needed to win. Like, that's half the battle. That's how you make it to the playoffs. If you win the games that you're supposed to win, you're making it to the playoffs. If you are pretty good away from home, then that's what gets you into the top 1 or 2. And that was Philadelphia Union this year. But then you get into the playoffs here, and I mean, look, New York City just, you talk about wanting it more. I think New York City just had that extra dog in them. The game statistically was very, well, I won't say all stats. Possession was dead even. It was 50-50. Philly, for everything that they did right, they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. They had 18 shots. They had just over 2 expected goals, 6 big chances. And if you don't know, because I know these stats get thrown around a lot, a big chance is a chance that's created that has a very high likelihood of ending in a goal. So you had 6 big chances and obviously didn't convert any of them. So, I mean, as far as the way that it went down, Maxi Morales, 27th minute, that beautiful team goal that I talked about. On Philly's side, Ty Baribo gets a yellow. Ty Baribo had been, pretty solid all year. He gets yanked in the 60th minute along with a handful of other guys. Andre Blake gets pulled, goalkeeper, who, by the way, had a very nervy moment when he had to go sprinting back to go knock out a ball that had been sent from the halfway line that I'm pretty sure it was going to be a goal. I mean, you could maybe look at the angle and argue one way or the other, but I'm pretty sure that ball was going in. Andre Blake has to sprint to knock it out for a corner. Super nervy moment, but he has to get pulled in the 60th minute. You never want that to happen. And then it was just a matter of Matt Freese, who is very likely at this point going to be the U.S.'s number one goalkeeper in the World Cup. He did his thing. New York City held on. I mean, look, it wasn't like a super exciting game necessarily, at least for most of it. It was a 1-0 scoreline, but like it was a team that you could look at. I think when you look back at over the 90 minutes, you could say New York City, they wanted it more than Philly did. Philly looked nervy, but the thing is as well, Philly had their chances. They had plenty of opportunities. I'm going to go back to the expected goal stat. They had their chances and just could not finish. And that's been a little bit of a problem all season. They've made it work, but there have been plenty of games where if they didn't win it, then they were lucky to get a draw, but they could have easily won because they just had expected goals out the wazoo, but they just couldn't finish. So I don't know, man. It's one of those where the supporter shield curse strikes again. Harry, yeah, Philly got smacked 7-0 by Vancouver, and Vancouver, just a phenomenal team overall. I mean, obviously we know this, but that's to that point. They just have struggled against the really good teams. I don't think, though, New York City has been a phenomenal team all season, but they have grown into it and they've gotten hot at the right time. They remind me, honestly, a little bit of the Red Bulls last year. They just got hot at the right time. They were right there, right? Like they were in and out of the playoffs for most of the season. They kind of got in and they've made it work. But since the playoffs started, they've looked like a really good team. And I know we can sit here and kind of make predictions and, say everything that we said about Messi, but when you go and you look at, let's see where we at here. It'll be Saturday at 6. When New York takes on Miami, I think that Miami has to be very careful how they prep for this one because they did a great job against Cincy. Javier Mascherano did a great job prepping the team. Made the right decision to keep Suarez out. New York City is a different beast than Cincinnati. Totally different play style. So I'll be very intrigued. And I mean, look, the favored one is going to be Miami, and rightfully so. But if Miami goes into that game thinking that they've made it past the harder opposition, they're going to have another thing coming for sure. So we'll see. But yeah, New York 1-0 over Philly. And I think that's the big upset of this set of matches in the conference semifinals. Of course, we have one more coming up just in a few minutes, about 20 minutes before kickoff, between San Diego and Minnesota. So we'll jump to that one real quick, chat about it. The lineups are out for San Diego. Of course, you've got Andres Dreyer up top, Corbett, Pellegrino, Godoy, Verskov, who has been one of the best midfielders in the league throughout the entire season, Valakari, and then in the back, you got Pilcher, McVeigh, Dua, Bombino, and then Cisniega in goal. And then the other side, Minnesota, who, again, coming off of their wild one against Seattle a few weeks ago. They're dealing with, obviously, a red card and a couple of other things. But, I mean, I think they're more or less where they want to be. You got Yaboa and Lagwani up top, Pereira, Trapp, Trantis, Lod, and then the back you got Harvey, Boxall, Duggan, Markanich, and then Dane St. Clair in goal. I mean, I think probably lineups about exactly what you expect as far as how this one goes. Let's see. The stats have San Diego with a 58% win probability to Minnesota's 20. Obviously, if this goes to 90 minutes and it's even, go to extra time. And then if it's still even, then we're going to penalties, as we saw Saturday night. Um, I've got San Diego. I think Minnesota's going to make this a game. I actually think this is going to be an enjoyable game to watch. But San Diego has played very fun soccer all season. They play with purpose. They play with intentionality. They play with. I mean, I kind of I'm going to use the cliche, but they play with heart. Like they know what they're doing and they enjoy it. And the biggest key is going to be whether or not Minnesota can mark Anders Dreyer completely off the ball, because teams that have done that have made it very difficult for San Diego to do anything. If Anders Dreyer is having a good game, San Diego wins for sure, bar none. You're not going to come back to this game tomorrow and look at FotMob or look at whatever SofaScore or anything and look at the stats, just the stats, and see Anders Dreyer with a high number and San Diego eliminated from the playoffs. It's not going to happen. If he has a good game statistically and eye test, whatever, then San Diego, they march on and they take on Vancouver in the conference final. But Minnesota, they've been tricky. They've been very tricky. They've been a pain to deal with. And I thought it was so interesting when they played Seattle. I thought the best soccer that they played was after the red card. And I go back to what I said about Vancouver and New York. I mean, in that game, Minnesota just wanted the game. They wanted it more. And I mean, if they make it past San Diego tonight, that's huge for Minnesota's franchise. But San Diego is just they're on such a kind of a dream run, being the new kids on the block, and they're playing fun soccer and enjoyable soccer. They've got a star that has really like come into his own for this entire franchise in its first year. They've got a midfielder in Verskov who's one of the best in the league, and nobody talks about him. It's just this is an uphill battle. Again, the plan also San Diego playing at home, which you would think is actually a benefit, but they actually haven't been the best team at home this season. So maybe not the home field advantage that other teams might enjoy, but still, you're going to be in front of a playoff crowd at Snapdragon Stadium. Minnesota coming off a very tough game a few weeks ago, again, where they have a guy sent off, but they do make it back. So their morale is there, but it's going to be a lot to overcome the San Diego side. I will jump over to Bear's comment. So the Supporters Shield is cursed. What's going on with teams winning it and getting eliminated in the playoffs? Excuse me. That is I think it's kind of been a running joke. I want to say it's only been done, is it 6 or 7 times where a team wins the Supporters Shield and then wins MLS Cup as well, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody will fact check me, I'm sure, in the chat. It may be even less. But yeah, it is kind of a running joke that the team that wins the Supporters Shield, which is supposed to be the marker of the best team overall throughout the season. And to be fair, I mean, it is. Now, there's a little bit of an asterisk next to it because this is not a league where every team plays every team. You play every team in your conference twice, and then you just play a spattering of the other conference's teams. And there's not really a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. It just happens. So there's a lot of variance there in terms of like who you play. And, sometimes those opposite conference matches, they can be a gimme or they can be a game that you're just like, this is a total mismatch. And I think the Supporter Shield in that respect is a little tough to give it the credit that I think it deserves, simply because not every team is playing every team. Like, you're not getting a full picture throughout the entire season. You get a full picture in the conference, like 100%. The Eastern Conference champions, like they're where they need to be because they played every team in that conference and vice versa. But that Supporter Shield, man, it gets very interesting. And usually what you see happen is the Supporter Shield team will make it out of the first round, probably into the second round of the playoffs. And the team that's playing against them, they know they have to gun for them. They know that they have a lot that they have to do right to beat who has technically been the best team throughout the entire 34 match season. And I think they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder a lot of times. And not that the team that won the supporter shield gets comfortable. In some cases, we've seen it where they just ran out of gas by the end of the season. They put everything they could into that supporter shield because it is a trophy. It gets you in a Champions Cup. Everything else, like, it's important, but some teams just run out of gas. You don't have the amount of depth that other leagues offer in Major League Soccer. That's a problem. But also, like, you have the international break that happens. So you have this team that's just naturally on a high going into the playoffs. They make it through the first round, and then boom, there's a 2-week break. And it just throws so much of a wrench into a team's momentum. Thankfully, that's changing with the new MLS schedule. But it is a factor, and it's kind of been a factor because the MLS playoffs, regardless of what format they're in, have in some way, shape, or form been affected by that kind of October, November international break. So it's a very interesting thing. It is a running joke in Major League Soccer that the supporter shield is cursed, and most of the time, the one that won it doesn't end up going on to win the big one, which is, of course, MLS Cup. Now, you'll hear people after the supporter shield team gets eliminated from the playoffs that will go and they will justify the supporter shield. And look, like I said, it is a trophy. It is a piece of silverware. You should be proud of it. It does get you in the Champions Cup. That's what every team that it wants to be successful should be striving for, is getting in the, for anybody that's watching, like from Europe, because I know we have some in here, Champions League. It gets you into that, right? A good team gets into Champions Cup. That's where any team that actually has aspirations, that should be their minimum. Then what happens in Champions Cup happens in Champions Cup. It is what it is. But getting there, I think, is minimum for a team that really wants to be good year in and year out. But MLS Cup is still MLS Cup. It's not, that is the Super Bowl of Major League Soccer. That is the one that everybody focuses on. Most people forget who won the Supporter Shield well before they forget who won MLS Cup. So it's just the nature of the beast at the moment. And yet again, we have a team that got knocked out after winning the Supporter Shield. So it is what it is. But yeah. So I've soloed. I've ran my mouth for an hour somehow about these 4 playoff matches. Again, one about to kick off here in a few minutes. San Diego versus Minnesota. But again, if you guys are listening for the first time, one, I appreciate it. We appreciate it. The rest of the crew not here for a variety of reasons. If you enjoyed it and you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out a ton. Visit scarvesandspikes.com for all of your Atlanta United coverage, World Cup 2026 coverage. Again, NWSL 2028 team coming to Atlanta. So all that coverage will be there. And join our Patreon. It gets you, any of the tiers, get you into our Discord, get you into our watch alongs that we do outside of the ones we do on YouTube, and then plenty of other content as well. It's been a good time. These playoffs have been fun for sure. And if you are so inclined to come back on Wednesday, we would truly appreciate it. Right before Thanksgiving, we'll be chatting Atlanta United. I'm sure we'll also be chatting whatever happens here in the next few minutes with San Diego and Minnesota. That is, of course, our regular show right before Thanksgiving, and we'll have some, I'm sure, holiday themed shenanigans as well. But yeah, for everybody else, I appreciate it. Tyler Pilgrim, and y'all go follow Scarves and Spikes on all the channels, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace. Now, here's the problem. The running gag is we start talking about something stupid while the credits roll. I got to come up with something stupid. Man, there's just not much stupid going on in the world right now. Actually, there's a lot of stupid going on in the world right now. I'll give you one. And I'm going to scream this from the rooftops. Roundabouts are not stop signs. You don't have to stop at a roundabout if there's nobody coming directly at you. It's unnecessary, it's unsafe, and it ruins everybody's day. Please stop doing it. It's irritating. All right, I'm off my soapbox.